Mr. Interval?
Yeah.
The doctor will see you now. Go down that hall, first door on the left. He'll be right in.
Okay. What do you mean, doctor? It's a fucking chiropractor.
Hello, Mr. Interval. I'm Dr. Bruce Banner.
Hold on a second. You're Bruce Banner? I thought you were a scientist.
Well, I wear several different hats.
You wear different hats?
Yeah, it's an expression. I do all kinds of things.
Oh.
So why don't you tell me what's bothering you?
I'm so sorry to bother you, Doctor, but your ex-wife is on the phone and she says it's urgent.
Son of a bitch. Okay, sorry about this. I'll be right back.
Well, that's not good. Oh, shit. I mean,
May!
Actually, you know what, sir? My back feels okay. My back feels okay now.
Lay down!
Okay. Please take it easy.
Hulk smash!
Okay. What up? How's everybody doing? I forgot how to do this shit. That's why I was all fucked up at the beginning. Slooch. Okay, let me get this ready here. So we're gonna read some stories. Yeah, we're gonna go Yankster. I know I've been slacking with stories. So what we're gonna do is, I'm gonna do a short. You're gonna have to just deal with this air conditioner because it's hot as shit. So you hear that clicking around? That's just the AC. And we got Ripley, and we're gonna do a shorter story, and maybe some more people will show up, and then I got a longer story. So let me see what's going on here. Oh my god, that ain't Denoctral in here. You can't tweet it, Stacy? Maybe I can tweet it. Dude, it is so hot. Liz Lou. That's crazy, man. I think about trying to get in touch with you sometimes, but last time I was talking to you, yeah, it was all fucked. I couldn't figure out how to make it. The mic wouldn't work. Hello, Reed. But yeah, Denoctral, last time your phone was like a temporary one or something. Let me see if I can tweet this. Well, you're gonna have to DM me somehow, dude. Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, because I don't want to be doing numbers and shit on here. But anyway, okay, so what the hell am I doing? I'm all screwed up because it's been so long since I live streamed. So I'm gonna play this. Could you guys hear the skit, or was it like super quiet? Of course, Ripley has to be standing on my thighs while I'm sitting here, because My brother's dog irritates her, so she's just gonna sit here. That's cool, but... Alright, what's up, Rob? Hey, you guys gotta check my buddy Rob out. Make Things with Rob. Dude's a beast, making like all kinds of woodwork shit, crazy accessories to saws, and I mean, he must have like 100,000 subs by now. So you can plug your shit if you want, man. All right, so we're gonna read a story first called "The Tinkerer," and then we got a longer story, and then maybe we'll bullshit with my brother. I don't know yet. You ready, Slooch? All right, here we go. So you're not able to tweet this out? Because no one cares on Twitter anyway. Okay, so if you hear stuff, it's Ripley's tale. The man they called the Tinkerer lived in a dilapidated house in the part of the neighborhood kids told stories about. It's said that as soon as he carried his beautiful new bride inside and put the for sale sign away, he began to work. The lawn, once infested with skag grass and biting grasshoppers, was torn up and replaced with finely cut Kentucky bluegrass. The shutters that were dry and porous as old driftwood were refitted with fabulous imported blinds. The broken shingles were repaired, tilted porch leveled, craggy driveway repaved. The house that once had been a blight on the eye had become the finest in the neighborhood. Stop it, Ripley. At barbecues and holiday parties, the Tinkerer and his wife were the centers of attention. Beyond closed doors, however, were the true marvels. The Tinkerer was an inventor, you see, and once he finished with the house, he began to work on his other projects, dismantling and improving upon the many outlandish contraptions he had created. The combination of his mechanical genius and perfectionist mentality caused him to obsess over any flaw, no matter how minute. Talk of the Tinkerer continued, and as it's bound to happen with those who envy their neighbors, began to turn sour. Baseless rumors spread about the Tinkerer's past, or of illicit business deals that allowed him the means to pursue his hobbies, and eventually of a tawdry affair his beloved wife was involved in. This scandal titillated the neighborhood, and it wasn't long before the Tinkerer himself caught wind of it. Many would be able to brush off such nonsense as idle gossip, but the Tinkerer's eye for imperfection, real or imagined, would not allow him to do so. The Tinkerer and his wife stopped going to the barbecues and holiday parties. His immaculate yard became once again overgrown, and the house's beauty diminished. There were complaints of foul odors and strange noises that came from his property. Finally, the complaints came to a head, and the neighbors decided to enter the Tinkerer's house while he was out for supplies to see what he was up to. And when they did, they made a gruesome and terrifying discovery. Ripley, stop it. The rumors of infidelity tarnished the perfect image the Tinkerer had of his wife, and he decided to make a project of her. The police were called. A manhunt was held, but no one ever saw the Tinkerer again. The house still stands where it always has. The lawn once again infested with skag grass and biting grasshoppers. Some say the Tinkerer still walks its halls, searching for another project. Some claim to have seen a light on near where his workshop was said to be. Other brave souls who have ventured onto the property have sworn they heard footsteps inside, and still others insist that it's actually two sets of footsteps. One set is accompanied by the light mechanical click of gears that have yet to be perfected. Ooh, and thank you for trying to get in my face while I'm reading a story. That always helps. Okay. All right. So how's everybody doing? Get on, Ripley. Get on. She's so spoiled. Let me find one more shorter one, and then we'll do this long one. Now, how's the levels and shit? Do you hear music, or is everything good? Maybe the music would drown out that air conditioner. Hey, thanks, Rob. Yeah, she's a good dog, Fluffy. I know she got down, but she'll be back. Let's find another short one. See, I made all my it's a little quiet, you say? Okay, let me see. The music or me? I'll turn us both up a little bit. Well, it's like real subtle. I don't want to like play something that's like a melody that keeps happening for fucking 10 minutes because you guys will be sick of that shit. But what I did was, Yang, are you talking about my voice or the background music and stuff? Because I'll let you hear the music. It's really just like noises. Well, now I can't hear it either. See, Ripley's coming back now. Okay. Let me get my shit together here. So, how yeah, man, I mowed the lawn last night. And there's like all these fires here in California, and I was drenched. I thought I was going to have like a heat stroke or something. Because I felt really fucking weird when I got done. It is so fucking hot. Let me look for a story. But yeah, what I ended up doing was I made a lot of my older stuff private for a while because I don't like how I was doing it. And if that's the first thing that someone hears, you know. I mean, some people like how I was doing it. I don't like how I was doing it. I was like yelling because I was listening to what people were saying, like whatever. Okay, I'm gonna read. I'm gonna read It Sleeps With Me. And we got some extra background noise. You got 6 dogs. Nice. You guys tell me I'm trying to... Yeah, Yang, the Bigfoot one is private. But see, I didn't hate what I was doing at that point, so I'll probably make that public again. Okay, so we're gonna do It Sleeps With Me by William Hill. Ripley. Alright. I used to get lonely at night since my girlfriend broke up with me. I'd lie awake in what could only be described as pitiful wallowing as I clutch my pillow to my chest, and I pretend I still have her sleeping in our old bed. Sorry. No, it's even gotten to the point where my delusion makes me feel as if I have her right there in my arms, as I'll sometimes hear that cute little snore. I wish it were a dream. A few nights ago, I woke up in the middle of this nostalgic dream to find I wasn't alone. My bedroom was a little larger than average, but that was because when my ex and I were still living together, we needed the space for our large vanity desk to complete the drawers for my personal knickknacks and her jewelry. I still have the vanity, as she couldn't find any space for it in her new place, and I couldn't sell it as there was too much emotional investment in that cumbersome pile of wood and glass. Normally, the little chair in front of the vanity was empty, or when she still lived there, occupied by my ex, as it was her favorite spot to sit and read when she couldn't get comfy in bed. That night, though, I saw something different. I figured it was my half-asleep state playing tricks on me, but I could have sworn I saw the back of my ex facing me as she sat at the vanity. It was dark enough that I couldn't see into the mirror, but enough light to know her shape and her favorite baggy t-shirt she loved to wear to bed. I called her name, but couldn't remember the rest as I suddenly woke up to a rather late morning. My alarm clock somehow didn't wake me up, but the alarm was set and ready on my phone. I shrugged it off as I called my work and told them I'd be on my way. I returned later that night and really checked out the vanity. I turned the lights on that surrounded the mirror and looked at the seat, but couldn't find a thing out of place. All my valuables were still in their places, and the seat itself hasn't seen an ass sitting in it for quite some time. Nothing out of the ordinary at all, but only a dream, I suppose. I showered off the day of work and collapsed into bed, clutching my pillow to fight off yet another night of loneliness. It happened again, though, that night, too. I woke up and saw her sitting yet again at the vanity. This time I had a little more light, and I could faintly make out the shape of her face, only to see that it wasn't her. Not at all. What I saw almost made me scream. She had the exact same hair and the exact shape of a face that of my ex, but the similarity ended there. The mouth was some twisted mockery of a human mouth, with what I could only think of was fangs sneaking out from behind torn lips. What should have been a normal nose was instead two small pits that leaked some grotesque liquid down her face and painted her fangs in some sickly green coating. The eyes were the worst. Two red orbs impossibly big for a human's face. It was like looking at one of those fish that lives in caves with little to no light, and evolution made their eyes huge in order to help them survive. These orbs were at first just looking right back at its own reflection, until it noticed my movements, and locked contact with me. The mouth of this monster twisted into a grin that would make any sane mind crack and revolt against this abomination that existed. I nearly lost it when it swiveled its head in one smooth motion like an owl's and locked its eyes onto my own. The reflection helped soften the rising horror, but this new confrontation of its features made my guts nearly heave out of my body, on both disgust and horror. The skin on its face took on an eerie sheen as it opened its mouth and tried to form words. It took a few moments to figure out how to speak with its monstrous mouth, but the words came out in a voice so similar to that of my ex that I couldn't help but faint. I woke up screaming to yet again another day in full swing, and found that I had slept through my alarm yet again. I was lucky I had the day off and no big plans to look forward to, but I was determined to get rid of that fucking vanity, as I was sure it was the cause of my recent nightmares. After a few phone calls and relocating some furniture in my house, I was able to get the vanity out of my room and into storage, so that my ex could get it if she needed it, or I could have an easier time selling it without needing to invite strangers into my bedroom to see it. I called my ex after it was all said and done, and she said she'd figure something out. I then started asking her if she had been having any weird dreams. Our friendship we had tried to establish after the breakup wasn't great, as wasn't really great as I heard the annoyance in her voice, as she told me that she didn't have any dreams for quite a while. Not wanting to push a dead conversation further, I wished her luck. I wished her luck with that vanity and hung up. Last night was the final straw for any shred of reality still clinging to me. The vanity was gone, and a big gaping space was all that remained of the cumbersome furniture. While feeling rather naked without the vanity accompanying most of my room, I was more than happy with the thought of ending any chance of nightmares like I have had the 2 nights previous. I settled down into bed and did my lonely routine of clutching my pillow and falling asleep. And before I knew it, I was out. I woke up to that warm feeling being near my body, much like how you feel the body heat of someone cuddling up next to you. I was still groggy when I realized that the form sleeping next to me was the same damn thing that had been sitting at the vanity for the last 2 nights. It imitated my ex's breathing pattern to a T, and even had her other noises down pat to where if I were blind, I wouldn't been able to tell the difference. It lay there for a while longer, until I guess it realized I was awake, as it did the same swiveling motion with its head, and locked eyes with me once more. Being up close and personal finally made me truly lose it, as I screamed bloody murder at the top of my lungs. I fell away from the bed, and was scrambling until my back hit the wall, as I dared not to look anywhere but the bed for fear of being surprised yet again by this hideous imposter. My heart was still pounding in my ears as I saw it peek its head over the edge of the bed, and watched as its body slithered like oil off the bed and reformed crouching on the floor. It began to shuffle closer and mouth words that imitated my ex's speech. It drove me further into insanity. I woke up on the ground of my bedroom floor this morning with the patterns of the carpet imprinted on my cheek. While the last few days I had woken up late, I found that this time I woke with the dawn. I checked myself over, and besides some cramps from sleeping on the ground, I couldn't find anything out of place. I called into work and started looking into stories about nightmares and stress to see if someone had some explanation about what was happening in these dreams. Sure, plenty of shrinks would tell me that I see her in a negative light, so that's why I dream of her as a hideous beast. But these dreams felt so real that I couldn't think of them as anything but my imagination running wild. I typed in all sorts of things about my nightmare, until I came across this old urban legend about how there are some ghosts that feed off of loneliness and fear, with one in particular nicknamed the Dream Eater. The more I read about this Dream Eater, the more I found it to be similar to the experiences I've had these last few nights. It apparently attaches itself to lonely people, with men in particular being its victims of choice. It'll manifest in items that hold personal value until it's strong enough to just appear on its own. This was where it got scarier, though, as it went on to say that once the thing is strong enough to do this without the personal effect acting as a totem, it's ready to feed. The process itself takes weeks, which chilled my blood as I had the feeling of cuddling my ex for a while now in my sleep. I couldn't say exactly how long I've been doing this, but it scared me witless to think I was cuddling with this Dream Eater bastard for some time. When it's ready to feast, some say you just black out for a few days and don't remember a thing, while others claim you lose your life the minute its hunger becomes too strong and devours you instead of your dreams. I had one chance, though, the vanity. The story said if I could destroy the personal effect, then I have a fighting chance to rid myself of the Dream Eater. I dressed and practically flew to the storage place to begin dismantling that vanity bit by broken bit, but found the storage shed unlocked and the vanity gone. I called my ex and asked her if she had the vanity, to which she said no, and asked that I stop bothering her about the damn thing, and that she'll get to it when she's able before hanging up on me. I broke out in a cold sweat as I had no idea what happened. The dude who ran the place said he didn't see anyone take it, and I had no choice but to believe him. The thing was huge, so damnably big it would be hard to sneak that last past the security camera. Impossible even. I didn't want to take any chances, so I packed a bag and made reservations at a hotel for a few nights. Nothing fancy, but something far away from my house, so I could maybe break away from the Dream Eater. I laid down, and after a few hours of trying to relieve my anxiety and fear, I finally got some rest. I woke, though, to that same feeling of body heat next to me. I saw the thing's hair had become greasier and ragged. Once again, the head swiveled in one smooth motion and the face had become worse. The skin had turned black, like it was decaying, while the eyes remained that same coal red color. The fluid where its nose should have been took on the color of blood as it coated its fangs once more. The lips were gone, and only teeth remained, which it bared in a rictus sort of grin. It only uttered 2 words before I knew it was over. Good night. Good night, bitch. That one was longer than I thought it was. You and your dog Goose are listening. Nice, dude. Yang, you'll pay me $4 if I play the background music when the boy's being chased by Sasquatch. Alright, dude. Get that $4 going. I gotta find the fucker though real quick, so hold on. So, have you guys seen any good movies or shows? You know what? I just got Shudder. Does anyone else have Shudder? I'm like super impressed by Shudder. So, let me know any good movies you've seen while I search for something for Yang here. And don't get mad and leave. But Shudder, I've watched several things that I would have never had access to. And they got these like the streaming channels. There's always something on. And it doesn't buffer. And I've got the worst internet of mankind. That's why I have to come over here to do that. Yeah, it doesn't buffer, which is like incredible. Even if I watch Netflix at my house on my Roku, it will probably buffer, or it'll tell me about 10 times throughout like a 2-hour movie, we're having problems playing this. And then I just have to go back and push continue or whatever. But let me find this real quick for if I can find it. I mean, shit, the dude's gonna give me $4. Oh fuck! See, the problem is that I used to call the music different stuff back then than I do today. So but what good movies have you guys seen? Dude, when the hell did I even do that one? One to go. Maybe. No, Shudder's the streaming service. Yeah, Denoctral. I watched a bunch of foreign shit. I love subtitles. You just saw House of a Thousand Corpses. It's funny because I think the first time the person I saw that with the first time is in here, which is it's crazy, but I feel like I was like, that was stupid the first time I saw it, like how dumb, but then later watching it a couple times I liked it. I'm trying to look, Yang, here. How loud is... if I can't find it, Yang, I'm just gonna have to read a story because, you know. Oh, this might be it. It is it. Hold on. Let me turn it up. I don't know what the fuck it's so quiet for. Bro, I can't make it any louder than that for some reason. Alright, there you go, Yang, you punk. You actually don't have to give me anything, man. I don't give a shit. PayPal or Cash App, or do I send a super chat? Whatever, dude. You don't even have to. I'm just messing with you. That's it. That's the Bigfoot chase. Okay, so now we're going to read another story. Let me stop this. And let me pick something else to play during this other story, which I'll play. I'll turn it down though because let's see how loud this is. I don't know what the hell everything's so quiet for. But we're going to read a long story called maybe it's not so quiet. All right. Let me see here. Oh, send you that. Okay, I see. Dude. I'll send you the file, man. Yeah, Captain Spaulding was awesome. I never saw the third one. I heard it was horrible. Okay, so we're going to read a story now called... Hold on a second. Hey, Bart. Is Ripley in there? Oh, she's right here. Well, I fucked that up. Okay, we're going to read a story called... Hey, I farted. Did you guys catch that? Alright, we're going to do... There are stains spreading across the faces of my family. Let me turn this music up. Can you hear the music a little bit? Just a little bit. Summer of '84, huh? Okay. Alright, so I'm going to read this. Hey, thanks, Yang. You fucking crazy ass. Alright. These are stains spreading across the faces of my family by Weird Guy Bryce. We were staying in a cabin my dad had inherited from his father. Coming here was sort of an impromptu vacation. My parents saying it was simply to get away from city life, but my brother and I knew that something was going on with the marriage, and they were using this break to try to reconcile it. Regardless of the reason, I was happy to experience true unchecked nature for once. Unfortunately, I experienced a day of terror rather than woodland tranquility. The stains started appearing the night of our first day at the cabin. The cabin sits in a somewhat mountainous region in the upper Midwest, bordered by woods, with one path leading from it for over a mile until it reaches a main road, which eventually connects to a highway several miles away. It's a fairly large building with 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, and a living room. A great fireplace resting against one wall, with the trophies of ancestral hunts affixed to the others. Its construction is solid and nigh impervious to the elements of the area. Being the labor of my grandfather and his 4 siblings, all experienced in some way with carpentry and forestry. My brother and I took one bedroom, my parents the other, and we spent most of the first day unpacking and exploring the immediate area outside the cabin. Unlike his father and uncles, my dad hasn't familiarized himself at all with nature, and my grandfather died before he could pass on his knowledge to us. Our exploration was extremely pedestrian, although I did appreciate the tranquility of nature compared to the unending raucous of the city. My brother, however, wasn't a fan, and refused to venture further into the surrounding woodland. The sight of insects skittering through the undergrowth or large birds resting atop the treetop canopy quickly unsettled him. A squirrel seen skulking along beside the cabin sent him howling inside. This was the only movement of humor on the vacation. We'd seen plenty of squirrels in the city. Once our brief and largely ignorant exploration once our brief and largely ignorant exploration ended, we gathered in the living room and resumed that aspect of our lives which was hard to shake off, even amidst deep nature, that is. We started up a movie. My dad had brought his laptop, even though he denied my brother's pleading to bring his own, and used his phone's 4G hotspot to connect to the internet and access a streaming service. A few minutes in, I asked if anyone wanted something to drink. I had already seen the movie and wasn't worried about missing anything. Everyone said yes, and seeing as how water was the only thing available to us aside from coffee, I settled on that. We'd brought bottled water, which I just poured into glasses we found in the cabin's cupboard. I carried 3, handing them out to my family, and went back for my own. As I went to grab my glass, something in the corner of my eye caught my attention. In the cabinet from which I'd taken the glasses, I saw something dark move away, quickly, going into another section. I opened the doors of the cabinets but saw nothing except a small hole in the wall behind them. I couldn't see inside, far too dark, but I could hear something moving about deep within. I wasn't spooked, but thought whatever it was might be verminous, and decided not to drink from the glass. I told my family what had happened, and they all surrendered their glasses at once. Unfortunately, all of them had taken a drink, and my brother had even finished his. He was utterly disgusted at the possibility that a rat or something had been crawling around the glass, and went to the bathroom, presumably to try and make himself throw up. Mom and Dad weren't too bothered by it, but said that we should recheck our rooms for critters before going to bed tonight. I grabbed a handful of bottled waters and set them on the coffee table, then sat at my spot on the couch. My brother returned shortly after, wiping saliva from his mouth. He said that he felt better, even though nothing had really been wrong with him. My attention was focused on the movie, so I hadn't looked directly at him before he sat down. Upon doing so, I scooted over to give him more room, and finally saw what was different about him since his departure. There was a black stain on his forehead, about the size of a penny, just above his right eyebrow. I looked at him, waiting for him to explain what had happened, but he just stared ahead at the laptop. I then nudged him and pointed to his forehead, mouthing, "What's that?" His eyes widened and he slapped at his face. Upon pulling them away and seeing nothing, he scowled at me, thinking I had played a prank on him. Before I could press him further, my mother shushed us. I withdrew my phone. Hey! Ripley! Jesus. That was scare one. Alright. My mother shushed us. I withdrew my phone from my pocket and took a picture of my brother's face. I was going to show him the stain myself, since he apparently hadn't seen it in the bathroom mirror. I wondered what it could have been. There wasn't anything that would have caused a black stain among the toiletries we'd brought. I'd also used the bathroom earlier in the day. That happens like every time I do a live stream, and it's like an added bonus to scare the shit. It scared me. Okay. And what's up, Rawati? Okay, I was going to show him the stain myself, since he apparently hadn't seen it in the bathroom mirror. I wondered what it could have been. There wasn't anything that would have caused a black stain among the toiletries we'd brought. I'd also used the bathroom earlier in the day and didn't remember any leaks in the ceiling, which could have accounted for it either. I made sure the flash was off, then stealthily aimed the camera at my brother's face and took the picture. My phone has a decent night setting calibration, so I was able to get a decent picture with the available lighting. Emitted mostly from the laptop screen and moonlight that dimly filtered through the curtains. I did a double take upon seeing the picture. There wasn't anything on my brother's forehead. There weren't any shadows obscuring the image. His face was shown clearly, and yet no stain was present, even though I could clearly see it when looking up at him. I zoomed in on the photo, but there just wasn't anything there. Just regular colored skin above the right eyebrow, where the semicircular stain should have been. Wanting to think that somehow the camera was at fault, yet knowing that wasn't the case, I took another picture. The result was the same. There was no mark on my brother's face, even though reality showed otherwise. I didn't want to alarm anyone, or have them think I was crazy, so I chalked the disparity of perception up to tiredness, and tried my best to ignore it. When the movie ended, I tried not to look at my brother, since I'd seen it already. I wasn't really engaged in the post-viewing conversation, which mostly amounted to them expressing whether or not it sucked. In my attempt to avoid looking at my brother, my gaze naturally fell upon my parents, and I again was stricken with a feeling of unease. They too held stains upon their faces. The lights had been turned on, so there were tricks of the darkness to blame, and despite what I had told myself, I wasn't particularly tired. With my dad, the stain was present just beneath his left eye, blotting his cheek. On my mother, it was on the bridge of her nose, spread wide like a starfish that threatened to stain both of her eyes. My brother's stain had grown in the 90 minutes which had elapsed. which had elapsed since I last looked at him. Now his stain covered most of his forehead, and had even fallen down to curve around his eyes and touch the cheeks beneath them. None of them noticed the stains on their faces, which led to the grim thought that perhaps I too had a stain on mine. I quickly dismissed myself, offering the earlier excuse of tiredness, and went into the bathroom. Trembling all the way there, keeping my head down as I entered, I tried to think of what I would do if my face was actually stained. Despite having no proof of this, something told me that water and a towel wouldn't get rid of it. I shut the bathroom door, stood before the mirror, and slowly lifted my head to stare at my reflection. My face was clean, not a stain in sight. I sighed deeply with relief, even though the absence of a stain on my face didn't really mean anything for the removal of the stains on the faces of my family. I stepped out of the bathroom, planning to re-enter the living room, say goodnight, and then go to bed. I entered the living room only to find it vacant. I hadn't heard anyone pass by the bathroom in the hall, and I was sure they would have called goodnight if they had. It was then that I noticed the front door was slightly ajar. It had been warm during the day, but the night had brought a pleasant coolness with it, which was blown into the room by the lightly shifting night winds. I went to the door, thinking that maybe someone had left it unlocked and the wind had just blown it open. Just as I grasped the doorknob, I heard an odd sound beyond it, like some animal bleating in the bushes not far off. I would have opened the door to investigate. I've always had a soft spot for animals in distress, but something about the noise sounded unnatural. Not in the sense of intonation, that sounded real enough, but the notes rose and fell rhythmically, as if they'd been practiced, and were repeating on a loop without the natural variation you'd get from an animal producing the sound. As if something had heard those sounds at some point before and was simply but perfectly mimicking them. Unsettled, even though I couldn't explain why to myself at the moment, I closed the door and locked it. I turned away and headed for the bedroom I shared with my little brother. But before I could even make it to the hall, something heavy pounded against the front door, making me jump and yelp like an idiot. The pounding continued, seeming to become more forceful with each strike. I quickly dashed to the fireplace, grabbing a poker, and brandished it like a bat. I hadn't any experience with self-defense. I walked to the door and shouted, "Who is it?" My voice came out unsteady and pathetic sounding. Hey idiot, let us in." My brother's voice filled me with elation. I hadn't known what I expected to be beyond that thin wooden barrier, but it just being him was for the moment an even greater relief than the lack of a stain on my face. I quickly opened the door and saw not just my brother, but my mom and dad as well. I dropped the poker and recoiled away from them. Their faces were completely covered by the stains. They all looked as if they were totally unaware of their facial discoloration. My brother looked at the poker and said, "Hey, were you scared? We were only gone for a few minutes." He laughed, and my parents joined him. And although it was more light-hearted than mocking, I still sensed something sinister about that chorus, something which I couldn't help but relate to their blackened faces. I quickly apologized as if it was an appropriate response to being scared, and went to the bedroom. My brother called after me, saying he'll be in there in a moment, and to not hog all the blankets. I didn't respond, simply went to the bed, pulling the sheets over my head as I did so, like some prepubescent child. Any notions of sleep had evacuated my mind by that point. I was wide awake, and could do nothing but lie beneath the covers, listening to the footsteps of my family as they walked about doing what? Doing what? Furthermore, why had they gone outside in the middle of the night, unannounced, without me? I knew as much as I know my own name. I knew as much as I know my own name that their brief yet strange departure was in some way connected with the stains, as was the weird, seemingly practiced sound I heard outside. My brother entered the room a few minutes later, not saying anything as he climbed into his bed. I didn't stir. Didn't want him to know I was awake. At that moment, talking to him seemed inadvisable. I wasn't sure what was going on, but I didn't want to further interact with him in his then present state. I heard the door of my parents' room close shortly after that. The interior of the house went silent. Although the blowing wind outside and the resultant sway of the trees created a surprisingly calm ambience. Against my conscious intent to stay awake for a while, I found myself drifting off to sleep. It is worthwhile to note that I sleep somewhat oddly in terms of the positioning of my body. I lie on my right side with my head resting on my arm. I lie on my right side with my head resting on my arm, foregoing a pillow. Depending on the available space of the bed, my arm either hangs limply off the side or rests on the surface. The beds in the cabin were fairly wide, so I had enough space to lie in the center and let my body really stretch without my arms dangling over the side. I explain this because not long after I had dozed off, I was abruptly and violently awoken by the fireplace poker being stabbed into my splayed arm, impaling it just below the bicep, inches from my face. "Your face is too clean, sis. We've got to mess it up a bit." My brother's voice sounded awful, as if some sort of demonic modulator had been attached to his vocal cords. The pain I felt at that moment was undeniably excruciating, but the sound of my brother's voice was so evil, so warped, that I almost immediately forgot about the rod lodged between muscle and bone. I felt one of his hands clutch my throat, and the weight of his body press upon my stomach. He was smaller than me, but the circumstances, groggy from the interruption of sleep and the impaling, prevented me from fighting back. A second later, the bedroom door opened and my parents entered. I instantly knew by their lack of urgency that they hadn't come to rescue me from my brother. My dad carried an object in his hand, a jar with something squirming around inside. "It's okay, sweetheart. We're just going to make you prettier. You'd like that, wouldn't you?" His voice was just as demonic as my brother's. He motioned my brother to move aside, and then leaned over me, pinning me down effortlessly. Without explanation, he removed the lid from the jar and stuck his hand inside. The thing which had writhed therein crawled upon his hand, leaving black streaks on the glass of the jar in its wake. I recognized it at once. It was the thing I had glimpsed in the cabinet earlier that day, when I had grabbed the glasses for the water. Then it clicked. The cause of their bizarre and now wicked behavior, was the glasses, or rather, what this thing had put inside them. My dad held it delicately, and its many black tendrils squirmed and flailed excitedly. He raised it for a moment as if to marvel at it, and I saw my brother and mom similarly behold the thing. The thing which looked like some nightmarish deep aquatic version of a spider. Some perfectly blackened supernumerary-limbed octopus that ceaselessly bled ink. Rivulets of the stuff fell upon the bedsheets, and I was supremely thankful that I had covered myself prior to falling asleep. "It'll take just one drop, that's all. You'll be fine. and your arm will be good as new. Then we can dance and play in the outer absm together. That's all your mom and I wanted, to be a loving family again. He then slowly brought the creature toward my face, like a crane preparing to descend upon a shipping container. As it drew nearer, I was able to hear a sort of cyclic whispering, as if it was emitting a repeated signal or message. When it was just centimeters from my face, I caught some of the message. I won't repeat it here. The words were too profane, too lyrically heinous. Not only an affront to any consideration of what is good and natural, but also to life itself, the very idea of animate beings. It was dreadful enough to instill me with a sudden and powerful surge of energy, a primal motivation for survival. With a sudden exertion that caught him by surprise, I freed my right arm and knocked my dad aside. Continuing the motion, I withdrew the poker from my arm and did not hesitate as I sank it into his neck. He lurched away, freeing himself from the poker, still holding on to that monstrous, verminous creature. I leapt off the bed, swinging the poker in a wide arc. My brother and mother backed away, looking at me with expressions like wolves retreating from a torch, wary but not frightened. What I did next may be deemed excessive, but it was the only way I thought to ensure my survival. My mother was heavily into track in her youth, and hadn't discontinued her training, even though she had settled comfortably into motherhood and city life. I knew that I wouldn't be able to outrun her, so I quickly swung the poker at her knee. It collided solidly, and she howled in an abominable way. I almost wished I hadn't heard her after hearing that foul cry issue from her throat. Knowing that my brother hadn't a shred of athleticism and hoping that his unease in the woods was still an aspect of his personality, I left him alone and sprinted out of the room. I ran as fast as I could, practicing the steadied breathing and balanced placement of my feet that my mother had tried to teach my disinterested Jesus. I ran as fast as I could, practicing the steadied breathing and balanced placement of my feet that my mother... I ran as fast as I could, practicing the steadied breathing and balanced placement of my feet that my mother had tried to teach my disinterested younger self. All the while, hounding me tirelessly were a series of things, all connected by some pursuing force. One moment, I would hear what sounded like a dog or wolf bounding on all fours. The next, I'd hear the lighter-footed steps of some smaller creature pursuing me just as quickly. The next, the wing beat of some aerial creature, the heavy clop of some titan mammal. I didn't dare look back at my pursuer. They interchanged seamlessly, one sound dying, another arising. I ran on and on, until I eventually blacked out, and my body continued the motions autonomously for who knows how much longer, fear-driven to carry on the flight. I regained consciousness in the middle of a road, luckily spared from being smeared across it by a vehicle. I was senselessly exhausted, which wasn't a surprise, given the preternatural extent of my marathon. Running was no longer an option, nor even a slow jog, but I managed to walk steadily enough. After perhaps an hour, I came upon a diner, just as the sun came over the horizon. I entered and was greeted by a kind old lady preparing the morning's coffee behind the counter. I hadn't any money and hadn't even thought to explain myself, but she immediately poured me a cup and beckoned me to sit at the counter. I must have looked a mess because she came across and put her arm around me. I heard her asking questions, her voice full of worry, but the walk there had sapped me of all my remaining energy, and I again lost consciousness. I woke up in a hospital bed, my right arm bandaged, an IV drip of something fed into the other. A doctor entered a few moments later and kindly explained that I was picked up from the diner after the owner called the emergency services. I'd been dehydrated and severely exhausted, and my arm had to be stitched. But he said I would soon make a full recovery and asked where I'd come from and if I had anyone who I could call. They hadn't found any identification on me since I hadn't yet unpacked it from my luggage back at the cabin. I didn't want to tell them about the cabin. Didn't want them to try and contact my family, who were undoubtedly under the control of that vile little creature. I lied and said that I'd been hitchhiking. And hadn't been very lucky in a while. Forced to walk the considerable distance. In regards to my lack of belongings, I told him they'd been stolen by the last person who gave me a ride. I said this person had also stabbed me during the theft, hence the wound in my arm. It was a pretty shitty lie, but I must have looked in such a poor state that it didn't matter. The doctor asked if I'd be willing to talk to the sheriff and answer some questions, but I told him I was pretty tired and I couldn't remember much at the moment. He nodded sympathetically and went to leave the room. As he closed the door, I saw a nurse pass by him in the hall. On her right cheek was a tiny black dot. From my position, I couldn't tell if it was a mole or something else. Being the modern teenager I am, I thankfully still had my cell phone in my pocket, having brought it with me even to bed at the cabin. I feel like I'll be safe here for a while at least. But if something happens to me, I'm writing out and posting this story in the event that I'm swept up by malicious forces. Man, your mouth gets tired. You know, I wish I could read a story like that. Just read it how I did. I mean, I know I fucked up a few times, but when I make a video, I'm like insane about it. Like, I would have cut between every sentence I said. I just wish, that's probably what I'm going to start doing is, trying to not edit so much. Because that's what's kind of cool about the live stream thing is that if I fuck up, I have to just move on. I have no choice. There is no editing. Alright. Do you think this guy... Yeah, I read the chat, but I'm not gonna... When I'm reading a story, I'll glance while I'm reading the story, but I'm not gonna, like, go away from the story for that. Thanks, Rob and Liz Lou. And what's up, E? So, how the hell are you guys doing? That's right, Fluffy. Let me stop this music. That's what I'm saying, like, this melody. Hopefully it was quiet enough, so... Because however long that story was, I'm sure you guys are like, turn this fucking song off. So I'm gonna stop that. I do like that song, though. You smoking one, E? That's awesome. I'm gonna do that later. Corey, you got 5 Cuban You got 5 Cuban cigars? Nice. I'm alright, Rawati. I know I haven't posted a video for like 2 weeks, 10 days or 2 weeks. I got one all read and partly edited, but I've just been like, I just go through these things where it's just like, I just don't want to fucking deal with it. It sucks sometimes when you put all this effort in and then it's like, you know, you can get discouraged. Like, you know, does anyone... Anyway, whatever. So that's what I was going through the last couple weeks where I was like, yeah, I know, dude. I think what's gonna... I know that everyone loves the true scary stories, but I mean, it's... This whole, like, community is so saturated. There's new dudes and chicks every day. And I know you guys like the true scary stories, but you know, this, I like them too, but it's so, to find decent true scary stories, supposedly true. I mean, almost everyone I read, I'm like, yeah, but you know, that's their story to tell. But I'll probably move and do more creepypastas, and then when I come across good shit that's supposedly true, I'll do it. Yeah, I know. I know, you're not a good one to look at, your fucking sub count. Anyway, though, it's all good. This is my bed I've made, and I'm gonna lie in it. But before we read something else, what up? Because I really don't feel like reading a big ass story again. I'm gonna start looking for something though that I got saved here. That was a story by Weird Guy Bryce, who I've done a bunch of stories. He's a good writer. Alright, so I will check out Denoctril. I will check out Summer of 84. You know what I watched on Shudder I really liked was The Core on the series. I'm watching Creepshow right now, which has a couple good ones, but The Core is like this dude who talks to different directors. Like one episode would be a lot of them were people I didn't even know. I mean, the guy who did You're Next or whatever, and they go over like just movie stuff, but then they'll have like, you know, like one of them was about these two sister directors who, you know, their movie they cut a dude's dick off, and so then they had a part where they went over for the special effects for a scene like that, like making a fake dick, and then what you can do for cheap to, like, you know, blast blood and chunks out of a tube. It was just pretty cool, except for the last one was Glenn Danzig with his whatever he makes comics or something. All the guy did was promote himself. He was in fact, I hate that guy now. I mean, that's all he did for a fucking hour, was talk about how awesome he was and how he knew martial arts and how his music was the greatest. Now I like that song Mother, but and there's some Misfits things I like, but god damn, he was annoying. Anyway, though, The Core, if you're looking for something pretty cool. And what else is cool about The Core is at the end, there was only one season, but they'll do really cool, like, you know, they're doing the interview, and then all of a sudden, something swings down and smashes the guy's face. But like it was just out of nowhere, like you know, like a stunt in a movie. So it was pretty cool. But at the end of the episode, he'll go talk to this guy about recommendations from Shudder that they have. Well, that they did have like 3 years ago, and some of the suggestions that guy made, I watched that were pretty good. Like Shrew's Nest was pretty good. All right, let me look for a story. But yeah, I hadn't streamed for so long that I forgot what the hell. I couldn't make, my mic wasn't showing up, and I forgot what to do. So, whoever was here early, I know Yang was here early. I'm sure was like, what the fuck? All right. This one's pretty cool. Stargazing. So are you guys ready? Let me see if I can. I'll just play this quietly. I mean, whatever. Yo, thanks, E. My daughter won a writing contest 3 years ago. I want to send them to you, even though they're... Hey, absolutely, Denoctral. Absolutely, dude. Send them to me. And like I say, somehow we gotta get together on DM somewhere. So I don't know what you have, if you have Facebook or IG or Twitter, but I'm on all of them, and you need to, you know, either, you know, get at me is all I'm saying. All right, so we're gonna read Stargazing, but yo, thanks E again. So this is called Stargazing by Ongoing Eclipse. Hey champ, what are you doing back there? I asked Lucas. Olivia smiled at me as I shifted in my seat. God damn it. Oh shit. I wanted to check what our son was keeping himself busy with. Let me mute my phone, hold on. No one ever says something to me until I'm doing something. If I can figure out. Okay. Hey champ, what are you doing back there? I asked Lucas. Yeah, I've seen that, Liz Lou. He does look like her. Okay, I'm not looking at chat no more. Hey champ, what are you doing back there? I asked Lucas. Olivia smiled at me as I shifted in my seat. I wanted to check what our son was keeping himself busy with. It was night, and the trip we had to take was so long. We had left Sacramento at about 6 p.m. and had 6 or so hours of driving before we got to Cleveland, all along the US 50. We went to my sister's wedding, and Olivia had proposed for us to make it a wholesome family trip instead of just taking the plane. I was more than happy to do that, but Lucas wasn't. He grumbled during the ride to Sacramento, though now he was completely calm and focused on the night sky he had been observing through the sunroof. Lucas, what's so interesting up there? Did you catch a saucer? He smiled. No, I'm just watching the stars. Ah, that's nice, I said, happy that he found something to take his mind off the drive. Me and Olivia were both much too tired to hold a meaningful conversation, so we spoke very little, and the agreement was that we would switch places every once in a while to break the monotony. It was Lucas who broke the silence more often than not. Dad, he would always begin with, do you know what this constellation is called? And he would point his finger at some unknowable patch of the night sky, expecting me, groggy as I was, to decipher exactly what he meant. For the most part, my answer was, I don't know. Though I did try to share what little I knew of constellations as often as I could. I had never seen Lucas as enthralled with anything as he was with the stars on that night, because even when we'd stop for me and Olivia to switch places, he would come out, even if only for a minute, to observe the starry skies without the roof of the car obstructing his view. It's wonderful, isn't it? Said Olivia, talking about her son's infatuation rather than the stars. Do you think we could get a telescope, Mom? Olivia looked at me, laughed, and shrugged her shoulders. We moved on soon afterward. It was my turn to take a nap when I heard my wife speaking in a normal rather than a hushed. It was my turn to take a nap when I heard my wife speaking in a normal rather than a hushed tone. I couldn't quite make out what she was saying as I fumbled with my phone to check what time it was. 2:33. What's wrong? I asked. Look at how dark it got, she said. I thought my eyes hadn't got used to the darkness yet when I realized that it wasn't getting any brighter. The road, the desert, the surrounding area, all practically pitch black except for the interior of our car and its headlights. Instinctively, I looked up only to see a dark void without so much as a flicker of a star. How long's it been like this? Olivia answered with a shiver in her voice. For a few minutes now. But it's not like a cloud drifted over us or anything like that. It was instantaneous. One moment it's all normal, and the next, complete darkness. I scratched my chin. And look, she continued, lifting her phone for me to see. No signal. At the same time, we drove past a sign we have been familiar with. This area is supposed to have coverage, I said. Exactly. We drove in silence for a few minutes when, finally, Lucas said something. Beautiful. So pretty. They're perfect, aren't they, Dad? I looked up as if on cue. No stars. Son, is everything all right? Just look at the sky, Dad. You too, Mom. Please keep looking at the sky. I turned to check if he was okay, but couldn't see anything due to how dark it was. No shit, Rob. I gotta do that. Olivia, can you turn on the interior lights? Just as I finished the sentence, our car stopped in its tracks in the middle of the road. Olivia? I didn't do anything, she said with an audible panic in her voice. Let's go out, said Lucas. We have to take a better look. I moved to get out and grabbed him when Olivia grasped my arm. Come on, Dad, let's go, said Lucas, opening the door and stepping out of the car. Honey, come back, please, pleaded Olivia to no avail. I'm going outside, I said to her. Let go of me. No, something's not right, she said as I was getting out of the car. That's when Lucas started laughing maniacally. There's nothing quite as blood-curdling as hearing an 11-year-old cackling like a psycho for no apparent reason. I'm not going to pretend I wasn't terrified. This is beautiful, he yelled at the top of his voice. Olivia, keep the car running. I'm coming back right away. At the same time, I kept moving further away from the light, following my son's laughter. By the time I finally touched something, the lights of the car had already turned into tiny specks, like stars in the sky, and I had taken about 100 steps off the road. The laughter was really close, and I was touching something. Except it wasn't Lucas. It was cold, sticky, and fleshy, like sausages or tubes of some sort were hanging from the sky. And I had to push through several of them before I finally managed to grab my son's jacket. Dad, you're here. Look up. Look at them. I didn't. Instead, I pulled him out of there and started running back toward the car. As I did, something shuffled just above us. Dad, stop. I need to go back. Let me go back. Dad. Dad. We almost reached the car when I felt something tug at Lucas from behind. Hold on. We almost reached the car when I felt something tug at Lucas from behind. Then he started laughing again, and I heard two loud popping sounds coming from somewhere close. Jesus. Quiet. I snapped out of it, opened the car door, pushed my son inside, and climbed in myself. Olivia locked the door immediately, crying out of worry. Nothing happened for a few fleeting moments, but then something started investigating the roof of our car. A series of chilling ticks and tacks, followed by odd clicking, kept us on our toes for about 5 minutes, though it felt like hours. And then, just as abruptly as they started, the sounds all stopped. All the while, I firmly kept holding Lucas down. Uncover the sunroof, I said to Olivia. God damn. Alright. Uncover the sunroof, I said to Olivia. The previous clear glass was now covered in semi-transparent sludge and what looked like tiny bone fragments from where we were sitting. Through the sludge, I saw an improbably vast and odd, inconsistent wing lift and flap away as stars returned to the night sky. Whatever it had been attached to had already been up too high in the atmosphere. Whatever it had been attached to had already been up too high in the atmosphere for me to take note of. As the thing left, my phone started ringing like crazy, and Olivia was yelling something at me. I wasn't listening to what she was saying, because as the suffocating darkness lifted, I could finally take a good look at Lucas. He was sitting next to me, his head turned slightly toward the sky as if he was looking at the stars. Except he couldn't, because where his eyes used to be now sat two gaping holes, with fresh blood and scattered sclera running down his cheeks. He was smiling. Dude, I'm gonna what's up? Okay. Who's here? Oh, alright. Yeah, my throat was maybe it's this air conditioner blowing on me, I don't know. But what up? That was pretty cool, huh? Pop that son of a bitch's eyes out. We don't need roads. Dude, I got some water right here, but there's this itch right in my throat now. It won't go away. I got me a big old Aquafina, and that's something else that I gotta fucking talk about. So there's this drive-through gas station I go through all the time. And I got a big ass Aquafina. It's which is the best bottled water, by the way. It's 1.5 liter. Yeah, I got COVID. Yeah, it's 1.5 liters of water. Fucking $3.50 or something like that. And you know what? I could get a 2 liter of Mountain Dew for $3.05. And that's bullshit. Water. That's what they gotta. Water. $3.50 for water. But it was so damn hot that I had to get something. But I just think that the world's gone fucking crazy with a lot of shit. Fucking $3.50 for water? Yeah, right. I don't know if I can... Well, alright. Let me see what other ones I have. It's just everything is so fucked up, man. And everyone wants me to be worried about all these different things. And you know how I deal with shit? I don't fucking care. That's the best way for me. You know? I'm not going to worry about what could happen and what the fucking news says. And, you know, that's how I deal with things. I don't fucking care. Dude. I was just talking about that to someone because my stepsister had her ingrown toenails, a surgery on her toes. So I was telling my grandma. But I'm going to tell all you guys this story. I had ingrown toenails I had 3 of them on both of my big toes. And so I had them... supposedly they were going to fix it the first time. And they gave me a shot in between the web between my big toe and my second toe, which was the worst place to ever get a shot. Anyway, supposedly whatever they did was going to fix it. And so that didn't work. And then I was going to get another thing done, which my buddy who's in here went with me, and they deadened my toes and did it, and we just watched them do it. It was no big deal. Well, we went and stayed. There was this place called the Cliffs in Colorado where we would jump into the river. It was a great place that we went to all the time. So we went up to the Cliffs, and there was a this story has no ending really, but we stayed in a tent in these little alcoves. It was brick alcoves or something. And at about 3 a.m, finally all that pain stuff wore off, and I'm like, bro, we gotta go because my feet fucking hurt. And so we went home. But dude, we had such a great time at the Cliffs. I had such a great time in high school. Your favorite part is that I don't give a shit. That's awesome, dude. Yeah, and then people will go, well, you need to watch the news, otherwise you won't know what's going on. But that's what the news tells you. And somehow I always know what's going on when someone brings it up. I've already heard about it. Through social media or whatever. And that's another thing. Everybody's fucking arguing on social media and whatever. And I don't feel like things were like this. I might have just been in my own bubble, but when I lived, when it was George Bush and I was living in Colorado doing drywall, people want to stand around and talk about, politics or whatever it might be, and I wasn't interested, so I just kept my headphones in and did drywall. And I just don't feel like things were how they are now. It's like everybody has to have an opinion now. It's just so in our face that we have to like choose. And I don't have to fucking. I'm not joining any group. Oh, Liz Lou, they tore the nail out. Should I look for another story to read here? Yeah, that's right, Rob, and which means that whatever color, if you're red or blue, if you're red, whoever's red is right, and doesn't matter what they did or how good they are, they're right. And if you're blue, whoever's blue is right, no matter what they did. And the source that you're getting all your news from it's slanted toward whatever color. I don't want to make this all political. I don't want anyone to get upset, but it's just like whatever. Let's get off that, I guess. All right. So, should I read something else or should we just bullshit? See, now I'm getting Yang all fired up. Yeah. Let me look here. That's funny. Find some horror shit about toenails. Well, see, these stories that I'm pulling up are either stories that I already got yeses on or I mean, everything I've ever done, I've gotten yeses on. There might have been 3 or 4 stories over my whole thing that I did a story where I didn't get a yes because they posted the story like 4 years ago and they haven't been on Reddit since. So how about all right, dude. See ya, Denoctral. All right, so let me see. Let me see. Yeah, dude, don't get all into that, man. Do I have a favorite Reddit story? No. I've written like 3 stories that I really like. Maybe I'll read one of those. Should I read one of those? Let's see. All right, I'm gonna read. I'm gonna read a story called, and as soon as I start, it's like my throat. Yeah, you're right, dude. If we're fighting with each other, then we're not fighting up against them. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to read a story called Blood and Tears. This is a short story. By Darkest Artist. He picks at the lock on the door with tears and blood mixed and smeared across every inch of his body. Nothing. Hopeless. It's his 523rd futile attempt. He hobbles backwards and sits down on the floor and begins rocking back and forth again. It's been hours, maybe days. He seems to be starving. How did it come to this? No one's coming to help him. No one responds to his screams. He rubs his torn up elbows, even under the bandages made from his shirt. He winces and clenches his teeth in excruciating pain. They will be infected soon, and he has no way to stop this. How did all the days of his otherwise carefree life bring him to this? He looks at the ceiling again. He has done this many times, but he sees nothing up there. No escape, no hope, no God. He clenches his teeth again while he rocks even more erratically, trying harder to ignore the pain. Nothing. Hopeless. The pool of blood beneath him begins expanding outward again. He begins crying. Is there anyone out there? Anyone at all? He tries to scream once more, but his voice is beyond hoarse and weakened. He yields only a pitiful gasp before falling to his side. He winces hard upon landing. The pain is endless and overwhelming. While trembling, he adjusts his poor, aching, broken, and bleeding foot. Is there anyone in the world that cares about him? Is there anyone out there that will search for him? Anyone that will come find him and save him from all this suffering? I honestly don't know. But I just can't stop watching. Bum, bum, bum. I'm going to have to go in before the next time I live stream and go back through and get a bunch of ones that I have yeses on so I can have more shit ready. So what up? We'll talk for another minute, and then I'm gonna read a story called Lizzie that I wrote. Hey, what were you doing outside? What were you doing? Did you shit? But anyway, have you guys heard Lizzie? Or does anyone remember Lizzie? What's up, Eric Pug? Now Lizzie's a story. I think Lizzie is a story that I put on private. I put a bunch of shit on private. A I'll probably bring them all back, but... No. That's Ripley. Alright. Well, let's see. Maybe my nephew's going to come in here. Is he leaving? Bart? Is he leaving? You said yeah? What? Is he? I said, is he leaving? What'd you think I said? Alright. My brother better watch his fucking mouth. Alright. So, I am going to read. Oh, but what did he say? I said, stop it! I said, is my nephew leaving? And then he had some fucking attitude. Yang said you're whack, bro. Alright, I'm gonna read. But what did you say that he said that you said? I don't know, bro. I don't even remember. That's how little I care about what he has to say. Alright. This is Lizzie by me. Garage sale, Saturday and Sunday, 8 to 4. Luke took a ride onto Wilderness Lane, passing the cardboard sign. They'll probably leave the damn thing until it... They'll probably leave the damn thing there until it tears and blows down the street, he thought. They'll probably leave the damn thing there until it tears away and blows down the street, he thought. He came to a stop in front of a 2-story house. The driveway was lined with tables full of items. There was a couch and a dresser on the lawn, but Luke was only interested in smalls. Things he could buy cheap and transport easily to flip online. He didn't make tons of money doing it, but he liked the extra cash. And more importantly, he enjoyed the hunt. Luke made his way around the circular setup of tables that... Luke made his way around the circular setup of tables and already had a few items in his arm. A small skull ashtray, a back scratcher that he'd be keeping for himself, and a clay statue of a rhino. He was flipping through some records with his free hand and noticed a black cylinder next to the box. Just then, the homeowner walked up and stood next to him. Find anything? The man asked. Yeah, what do you want for these 3? And the Wish You Were Here vinyl, Luke replied. How about 15? 12, he quickly answered, looking him in the eye. Deal. The man reached out his hand and Luke shook it. What is that? Luke nodded at the black cylinder as he was paying him. It's just some cheap knockoff of the Amazon Echo, but instead of saying Alexa, you say Lizzie. You can just have it if you want it. I don't want you to do that. I'll give you $1 at least. You know what? I can't take any money for it. My wife says the damn thing doesn't even work. It's all yours. The homeowner wrapped the wire around it and tucked it into Luke's arm. Awesome, man. Thanks. Good luck with the rest of your garage sale. Luke walked back to his truck, tossed his loot onto the passenger seat, and drove away. At around 8:30 that night, Luke finished a plate of spaghetti and cracked open a beer. There was a game on, but it was the Mavericks against the Hornets, and he didn't care about either team at all. So he figured he'd relax instead of watching TV. He grabbed the generic Echo, plugged it in, and plopped back down into the couch. Lizzie, he shouted, and took a swig of beer. The black cylinder flashed a red light on its side twice, but there was no reply. Lizzie, Luke tried again. Another 2 flashes, but nothing. Well, I guess that guy was right, he thought. Luke stood up and got his new record off the kitchen table. At least he could rock some Shine On You Crazy Diamond while he caught a buzz. As he walked back into the living room, Lizzie spoke to him, and what she said sent a shiver. Oh my God! And what she said sent a shiver down his spine. Someone is coming to kill you tonight. What the fuck? Is this some kind of joke? Luke stood in the archway trying to figure out how this was happening, and she spoke again. Did you hear me, Luke? Someone is coming to... He ran and dove at the electrical outlet, pulling the wall plug before she could finish, and sat on the floor with his back against the wall. His mind racing. What's going on here? Is this a walkie-talkie situation? Maybe the phrases are programmed into it, and a buddy was pranking him. After a few minutes, Luke plugged it back in. 17 minutes, Lizzie said, as soon as she had power. 17 minutes what? He shouted back. Man, sorry about that. 17 minutes what? He shouted back. A man will be here. He will be trying to look into the living room window. Luke stood and walked to the window, pulling the curtain to the side. He looked up and down the street and laughed at himself. This is fucking crazy. I get some gadget at a yard sale that talks, and now I'm like Alex fucking Jones, staring out the goddamn window looking for lizard people. 14 minutes, Luke. So you know my name, big deal. Who is this? Mark? Bobby? You somehow must have known I would go to that garage sale. He didn't really believe that, but what else could it be? He knew it wasn't alive or conscious. It had to be some kind of trick. Lizzie, what is my full name? 2 red flashes. Lucas Walter Easton, born to Beverly and Philip Easton. Luke smiled. Impressive, but not mind-blowing. Tell me something that nobody knows about me. It was silent for a few seconds. When you were 13 years old, your cousin was getting beat up by a few bullies from the neighborhood, and instead of helping him, you ran away. 11 minutes. He was dumbfounded. He never told anybody about that. He was so ashamed at his cowardice. His cousin still had scars from that beating. Luke couldn't deny that something supernatural was happening, but needed more proof. He took his half-empty warm beer and poured it into the sink. Lizzie, he said, walking back into the living room. I need you to tell me something that's impossible to know. He turned on the game. Who will win the Dallas-Charlotte game? The Hornets win 106-99, she replied. Well, there's still an hour left. Can you tell me anything else? J.J. Barria is about to tear his right ACL. The game came back from commercial and Luke watched intently. He kept pushing fast forward to make sure he was live. About a minute later, Barria was driving to the basket and stepped on another player's foot. He fell to the ground, writhing in pain, grasping his right knee. Luke's jaw almost hit the ground, and he turned off the TV. He was ready to hear more of what Lizzie had to say. So why is this guy going to kill me? He's sick. He's done it several times already. He's going to cut your hands off. Jesus. And what do you suggest I do, Lizzie? Luke asked, as he sat back on the couch. 2 red flashes. Defend yourself. Shoot him while you have the chance. If you don't, he will blindside you. This man is stronger and more evil than you can imagine. Luke stared up at the ceiling, wondering if he was going insane. I'm not gonna fucking kill someone because an answering machine told me to. 7 minutes, Luke, Lizzie said. He got up and unplugged the black cylinder. This was getting out of control. He turned out all the lights and headed to his bedroom. He decided that maybe going to bed early was the best thing to do. He could have a fresh start tomorrow morning and figure out if he was losing his mind. But as he lay there, all he could think about was Lizzie's warning. How many minutes would she be at now? How the hell could she know about the basketball injury? What if she's actually right? Luke jumped out of bed, wearing only boxers, and flung open his closet door. He reached up over the highest shelf and grabbed the shotgun his grandfather had given him, and then he got some shells from his underwear drawer. Just in case, he thought to himself. He went back into the living room and plugged Lizzie back in. He sat back down on the couch. Lizzie. 2 red flashes. Yes? Where is he? He's approaching right now, she said. Sure enough, the silhouette of a man grew on the curtains, being backlit by the street lamp. The man had his hands on both sides of his eyes, trying to see past the curtains. Luke sat frozen, the loaded shotgun across his lap. Shoot him, Luke. You won't get another chance. Lizzie spoke in that emotionless cadence. Luke raised the shotgun and paused halfway. I can't. Shoot him or die. Glass exploded outward as Luke fired through the window. The man flew backwards a few feet and landed on his back. He was already dead by the time Luke walked outside. People in the neighborhood were coming out of their houses to see what was going on. Some started screaming and others were most likely calling the police. Luke knelt down by the man. His chest was completely destroyed, but his face was unharmed. It was his neighbor, Mitch. Tears started pouring down Luke's face, and he couldn't catch his breath. Mitch was a friend and a great guy. They'd barbecue and drink beers together quite often. Luke heard the sirens in the distance. He stood up. Went inside, and buried his head in his hands as the guilt started to eat at him. When the police showed up, Luke told them everything that had happened. Of course, they didn't believe him, and he tried to get Lizzie to say something and prove it. However, all the black cylinder did was flash red. Lucas Easton was arrested for voluntary manslaughter and was given a 14-month sentence because while he claimed that his neighbor was going to be an intruder, he wasn't exactly inside the house. He was given a 14-month sentence because while he claimed that his neighbor was going to be an intruder, he wasn't actually inside the house. The judge also ordered Luke to complete therapy sessions for his delusions involving the talking machine. The house next door that was owned by Mitchell Marlowe was transferred. The house next door that was owned by Mitchell Marlowe was transferred to his next of kin, his brother Steve. 6 months after the incident, Steve was living in the house with his family. His wife wanted to expand and update the kitchen. During the demolition, Steve found a secret compartment behind the stove, and in it was a large suitcase. Not having the combination, Steve pried at the corner with a crowbar until the lock popped open, flinging the contents all over the floor. Several vacuum-sealed bags of severed human hands. Oh, shit. Oh, man, I'm sorry that I don't like saying sorry about shit, but sorry that I keep coughing. That's gotta be great on a live stream. That was my story, brother. Yeah, I've done three or four. I've done 3 or 4 stories. Lizzie. Maybe when I do when it's close to Halloween, I'll do a live stream and read my story Behind the Triangles. About it's kind of like my Halloween story about pumpkins. And another story I did was called Symbiosis. That was really had a lot to do with my dog Rhino. You'd clap if you could, but you don't have hands because your neighbor's a fucking psycho. It's H.P. Lovecraft's 130th birthday. Well, he's doing well to be that fucking old. I'm just joking. You wonder what model shotgun? Well, I could have wrote anything, but I didn't get too into it. Let me stop this here. So how you guys doing? What other people do during streams? Do they like ever stop, or do they just move right on to another story? Ripley? I guess she's out there with them. You gave your chickens chicken nuggets? Fucking mad cow disease. Mad chicken disease. Did you know chickens were carnivores? I didn't know that. Did you know that birds are descendants of dinosaurs? Yeah, there you go. Sometimes evolution happens other than you'd think. Yeah, well, I also wanted it to be like, the guy killed his neighbor. Like, he was wrong for listening to that machine, but then at the end, the guy was a psycho. It's funny because I remember a comment on that video, on my Lizzie video, and someone said, well, what happened to the guy? I'm like, I don't fucking know. I didn't go that far. I don't know what happened. It's not real. I have to beat up possums because they want to eat chicken. Yeah. Those things are gnarly, man. Those things are scary. So my plan is to do more of these. I mean, I don't even know when the last time I streamed was. It had to be 6 months ago, or longer. But I plan on. I want. See, the thing is if I had decent internet at my house, I would stream all the time. I'd probably even play video games and stream that shit and do that shit on Twitch or whatever. Yeah. Well, let's just make it up right here. He got out of prison 14 months later, and even though people knew that he killed his neighbor because the machine told him, or that his neighbor was a psycho, they still were, no one liked him because they were unsettled by him because he shot a guy through a window. Dude, I've had the thing is it's like right across the street from me, they got great internet. But on my side of the street, we'd probably have to pay some ridiculous amount of money to get them to like dig a trench or whatever. So yeah, but see, if I did have good internet, I'd stream some games and shit. You do spooky music and started doing it on live stream. Like what do you do? Like you mean like you make a video of you making the music, or you already made it and then you play it on the live stream? Well, what game? Whatever. See, I mean, I haven't had it for a while, but I had a thing with Sprint where it would like trick it was like a hotspot for your car, and I got this other thing that tricked the little hotspot for your car. It tricked it into thinking it was in a car, and so I could eventually get it to think it was in a car, and then I could play video games like with my friends. Like we'd, for the most part, play the newest Call of Duty. Like I played Modern Warfare for a couple months till my Sprint got disconnected, and now I have Mint Mobile. But I'd play I would play newer I pretty much like. I mean, I like playing like Call of Duty with my buddies. No, I'm not Kirby or Pikachu. I'm older than that. I would play, if I was doing throwback shit, I'd play like. Yeah. Oh, I played with Yang too. Yeah. I would play like Toe Jam and Earl. If I was gonna throw back, I'd play Toe Jam and Earl, Mario, fucking Sonic. I mean, some of my favorite games are like Splinter Cell, Max Payne. Did any of you guys? Do you guys even know what Toe Jam and Earl is? Because the whole skit on my video, True Scary Stories Fire, was about Toe Jam and Earl. Kinda like when I got into the time machine, it played the Toe Jam and Earl song, and then I played a cover of the song at the end. And I was waiting for someone to say something, but how old am I? I'm fucking late 30s. But I'm gonna be immature till I die. Dude, the first time I saw Splinter Cell, that very first Splinter Cell, man. Really though, the first time I played Max Payne on Xbox, I was like, that bullet time thing was the shit. But no, see, like, my brother's more of a... I don't know if he likes Kirby, but he was into, like, Pokemon and shit. I'm not into all that. I'm into, like, fucking Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and shit. That's when I was a kid. Yeah, I know. People probably think I'm, like, 20 or something. You're 43. Nice. God, Kirby's Revenge. So do you want me to look for another story? Or should I read one more, or should we just bullshit? Because I've been going for 2 hours. Dude, I watched Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1 and 2, especially 2, like every day after school. Yeah, it's it's alright. It's just kind of close to... I don't know if it's close to the mic, but I'm sure you can hear it. They're adding Sam Fisher to what? Like Super Smash Brothers or something? Nice. Nice, Liz Lou. We used to do that where we'd hook up 2 Xboxes and play the original Halo, like from my cousin's room, and then everyone else in the living room doing that, like wiring up consoles. That was awesome. And then I started getting into online. My brother got me into online, really playing multiplayer. I don't know if they're doing Splinter Cell anymore. It's like they just quit making them. I mean, there was like 5 or 6 of them, right? I also liked Hitman, like Blood Money, Contracts. I didn't play the new one. Yeah, my brother and sister love Rainbow Six. Let me see if I can find one more story. I don't know, dude, but you know what? That whole thing where you had all those options, like you could shoot the light bulbs out and you can be sneaky, or you could kill them, or you could shoot that sticky camera to the wall that makes like a noise. Yeah. And like the first couple of Metal Gear Solids. Not a gamer, but my son is. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Well, let me look for one more. Of course, it's not going to be as good as my fucking story, but let's see. Double feature. Alright, I found one called... Let me see what you guys are saying. Did I play Thief? I think I tried it. I know my brother played it. He said it was okay. It was pretty good. But I don't know. Seems like I was into stealth action. Yeah, but I was into all kinds of stuff. You know, yeah, sure, I got into the stealth, whatever, but then I could play... You know what I mean. You're playing Dishonored 2? I haven't played that. Dude, I just watched, I like watching Let's Plays and stuff. And I just watched the playthrough of Last of Us 2. And I should have got it and played it, because I liked Last of Us 1. But I heard all this shit people were saying about Last of Us 2. And it was a fucking cool game. Did you guys hear all that shit talking about that? Like, that the chick was, like transgendered or something. No, she wasn't. She was a chick who was stacked. She was buff as shit, and it wasn't a guy. And by the end of the game, I was like, I loved Abby. She could kick my ass anytime. I mean, I'll beat her fucking ass, but I'll wrestle with her. Okay. But that was such a cool game. I don't know if you guys watched that playthrough or played that game. But just all the... Anyway, I'm not going to get into it. So this story is called... Yeah, that sucks. But alright, this story is called Chicken Troubles by Dan Hilliard. I bought a 9-acre hobby farm last year outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The plan was to raise some chickens, maybe grow pumpkins for Halloween, that sort of thing. The land was pretty cheap. It's not far from the original Westinghouse atom smasher, one of the earliest and sloppiest attempts at nuclear power. I brought home 6 straight-run chickens around Easter and built them the Fort Knox of coops out of some reclaimed wood I got on Craigslist. Within 2 weeks, there was only one left. I knew it had to be a predator. Every time one went missing, I'd find a little puff of white down and a few... I'd find a little puff of white down... I'd find a little puff of white down and a few drops of blood near their little chicken wire gate. Someone somewhere is feeding stray cats on my road. I see them all the time, basking on the rocks near the creek that runs through our pine barrens. I couldn't figure out how they were getting into the coop, and I'm not cruel. I went to Tractor Supply and picked up a live catch trap and some replacement chicks. I figured thinning the herd, so to speak, and dropping the strays off at a shelter would maybe let me collect a few eggs by late summer. I set up the trap in the pine barrens by the creek and baited it with a wad of raw bacon. There were a ton of little puffball mushrooms in the barrens. I stepped on a few every time I took a step, and it almost took me an hour to scrub the grayish goo off my boots when I got back inside. The next morning, I peeked at the trap through my bedroom window and saw a hunched brownish loaf sitting in it. I headed outside to collect the trap and take my first stray to the shelter. Inside the trap, making a clicking, sucking sound, was a spider the size of a shoebox. I'm an arachnophobe, and I know spiders, especially in Pennsylvania, do not get anywhere near that big. My throat tightened and I could feel bile creeping up my gullet. I panicked. I used the longest shovel I had, picked up the trap and flipped it into the creek. The current washed it out of sight. I could see the spider fumbling with the gate, each leg as thick as my index finger, as it sunk into the muddy water. I didn't waste any time getting back inside. The puffballs crunched underfoot. It wasn't until much later, after hours of poring through pictures on our spiders like Reddit, that I realized they're probably not mushrooms at all. They're probably egg sacs. Man, I hate spiders. It just wasn't your kind of game. That's cool. You just finished The Last of Us a few months ago. Yeah, that's true. They do eat all the little bastard insects. If they stay off of me, they can they can be in my house, but I just had an issue like 3 or 4 days ago because I was getting bit all over my fucking legs, my feet, and like my arm. Spiders were biting me like in my bed or something. So I sprayed this stuff, and it like attracted ants, and so I immediately I have to deal with ants in the summer. So the trick to that, if you don't know, because I had to learn the hard way myself, is you don't do anything to the ones in your house. You go out and find the trail and kill them, and then the ones inside will like split up looking for the way back or whatever. So I went out and killed the trail, and luckily, you know, it was still, I had a few hours before I was going to go to bed, so maybe they could clear out, you know. And that's stressful, man. I mean, finally I had to go to bed, and they mostly had cleared out, but there was still a couple. And to lay there and try to go to sleep when all you think about is something's on you is stressful. Thanks, Yankster. Home defense spray. Yeah, well, what we've done in the past is we know a guy who's you know, he works at one of the bug places, and he came like on the weekend, and we threw him some cash for way less, and he had extra shit in his car, which is like the hardcore shit. It's not like something from Walmart. So, and when he did that one time, it was probably 2 years since any came back. Like they took that shit back to their house and fed it to the. He explained what they do, but they took it back to their house and fed it to the little whoever, and it just wiped all of them out. Hey, Sierrawati. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll have a video out soon. You had a bad mix of spiders and ants, and when I mean ants, it was like a swarm. Yeah, man. It is. I hate it. And what I'll do is, as soon as I feel something on me, I'll whack it, and then I'll smell, because I know that the smell of that one ant is like, it smells like the woods almost. It smells like pine sol or the woods. And so as soon as I smell that, I'm like, oh fuck. So I get up and look to see if it was just like a scout. Is it just looking for something, or is there a damn trail coming in here? But I'm probably gonna wrap it up here. Yeah, stink bugs suck too. Slooch! Oh, you are in here. What are you doing? Was you sleeping? Oh, yeah. Were you sleeping? So. You did a good job, Slooch. Alright, you guys. Well, I should be back. I know, man. I'm gonna try to. I think it's this AC, but I appreciate it, Fluffy. So, all right. Be good to animals, even people. See ya. I'll be back. I got a video coming out probably in a few days. I don't know. We'll see. But I love you guys. See ya. Yo, what up, Rob? I don't know if there's a delay, but what up, Rob? Well, whatever you were going to say to me, you can message me on IG or something. All right. All right, I'll give you a second. Yo, thanks, Liz Lou. Thank you. I'm gonna be back live streaming some more. And you like never show up in the Discord anymore. Well, I appreciate that shit, man. I appreciate you getting a shirt too. That's fucking awesome. If it don't isn't easy and or whatever, maybe you can hit me on the next one or something, dude. Oh, my little Smokey. All right, you guys. Liz Lou, thank you, and I'll see you guys later. No worries. Goodbye. Yeah, I need to start doing that more where I let people know like, hey, I'm going to be here tomorrow, blah, 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 whatever. So, all right, you guys. Well, it's all good, Liz Lou. I'll talk to you guys soon. I'm leaving for real this time, all right? See ya.